Pokemon Blue was the very first Pokemon game that I ever played, and growing up with siblings, I have some fond memories of trading and battling as well. But like most games, I've beaten the main story but never actually completed it 100%. So today, we're not only going to master this game's retro achievement set, but we're going to go beyond and complete the entire Pokédex as well, marking the beginning of my journey to do so in each generation. So don't forget to subscribe for more, because our very own Pokemon legend is about to unfold. And our first major challenge is going to be figuring out what starter to choose, which means we should take a look at some of the missable achievements. With the recent retro achievement set split, Blue now focuses on type restrictions as you face gym leaders as opposed to level restrictions. In other words, they didn't want people like me to just use my starter or an early game Nidoran to solo the entire game with. Fair enough, I suppose. So when looking at the type challenges, choosing Charmander will give you an advantage for the 3rd gym, choosing Bulbasaur will give you an advantage for the 5th gym, and choosing Squirtle will give you an advantage for the Elite 4. However, there is one Pokemon in the grand scheme of things that clearly stands out above the rest when looking at the Retro Achievements type challenges in a vacuum. And that Pokemon is Psyduck. Not Golduck either. Psyduck, because Psyduck distinctly has the ability to get you multiple Elite 4 achievements all in one go, since it's a Water type, a Safari Zone Pokemon, and not fully evolved. Add a party of Magikarps to use as revive fodder, and a Psyduck with a good move pool can solo the whole thing. He can even be your candidate for the Payday achievement later on too. So with my MVP clearly established, I simply went with Bulbasaur as my starter to make the main story easier due to so many key battle type advantages, and this ended up being a great call. After defeating our rival Ass-Face in the lab, we grab our map from his mother, get our free sample potion on the way to Viridian City, and then we need to make sure to not obtain any Pokeballs or evolve our starter for just a little bit. There's a normally optional second rival battle west of Viridian on Route 22. If you win that battle and then return to Professor Oak without having any additional registered Pokemon or any Pokeballs in your inventory, he'll notice your incompetence and give you 5 Pokeballs for free, which gets us a missable achievement. After that, we can now begin our journey to start catching them all, with 5 Pokemon being available in the grass between Route 1 and 22. The big standout is of course the male Nidoran, who's a very popular choice among speedrunners due to its stats and move pool. It also doesn't hurt to catch a few of them for future in-game trades. But now it's time for the continuity to start jumping all over the place, because Retro Achievements not only requires us to obtain every Pokemon possible without glitches or external trading, but we have to battle every trainer, obtain every single TM, and find every item on the overworld, both visible and hidden ones. Some will require backtracking, but for the sake of convenience, we're just going to cover them all on my first visit to each area. There are only 2 areas in the game where you have to worry about any of this becoming missable. The SSN, which departs after you obtain Cut, and Silphco, where Team Rocket leaves after you defeat Giovanni. Everything else can be done whenever you feel like. And a very special thank you to Zero Kid on Game FAQs for granting me permission to use his maps in my video. Here in Viridian City, you have a hidden item in the bushes, and a TM available from this NPC after you get Cut. You'll also need Cut later on in Route 2 to access several items, a building where Professor Oak's aid will give you Flash after registering 10 Pokemon, and a different building where you can trade an Abra for a Mr. Mime, who's a really good candidate to level up. Not just because of Gen 1's Psychic-type dominance and the boosted experience rate from being a traded Pokemon, but because you eventually have to clear the Elite Four with a team full of future Fairy types, and Mr. Mime has the move pool to make this one fairly easy without having the rarity issues of Clefairy. Moving on to Viridian Forest, we have 5 new Pokemon we can encounter, 5 trainers, and 5 items, 2 of which are hidden. We also have the Professor Oak Challenge Junior Edition achievement. In a traditional Professor Oak challenge, you have to capture and fully evolve every single Pokemon before you face off against each gym leader. The full Professor Oak challenge is in a separate subset, so we won't be doing that here. For the Junior Edition achievement, we just have to capture a Caterpie or Weedle in the forest, and then without leaving the area, evolve it all the way to a Butterfree or Beedrill. Funny enough, I almost failed this on the first attempt because I severely underestimated how many turns of attacks it would take to reach level 10. At the time, facing off against a wild Metapod seemed like a blessing, because they could only use Harden, and therefore I'd get the free full experience. But using all those power points from my attacks really came back to bite me later on. Since battle experience is evenly split among every single participant, the big thing that bailed me out here was Bulbasaur's Leech Seed. Because I reached a point where everyone else could only use Struggle, so instead of attacking to hurt myself further, I had to swap back and forth between Pokemon every single turn to slowly heal. And it really did come down to those final few turns of struggling. So with the power of hindsight on my side, I wouldn't have even bothered attacking with my bug until it was as strong as possible. And in addition to making better use of experience point splitting, the other thing I should have considered was using Weedle, because it was the passive damage that ended up saving me on this challenge, and therefore I would have benefited more from having Poison Sting. If you personally hate the idea of this achievement though, you could theoretically come back later with a bunch of rare candies, save, catch your bug, force feed it to level 10 to get the achievement, and then reset afterwards to keep your candies. After wrapping this up, our next stop is Pewter City, which has no hidden items, but you'll need to return later with Cut to get the old Amber to revive Aerodactyl. So next up is our first gym, and Retro Achievements actually has 2 missable achievements per gym. One for the earlier mentioned type challenge against the gym leader, and one for clearing every single battle in the gym in a single session without leaving, so make sure to save before entering. To clarify though, you can use whatever Pokemon you want for the trainer battles, and then for the gym leader, it only checks what Pokemon you sent out in a battle, not what's in your party. And lastly, secondary typing doesn't matter at all for the gym leader challenge. As long as one of the 2 types is what's mentioned in the achievement, you're good to go. For Brock, we have to use normal types, but our only viable options at this point are Rattata and Pidgey, because Spearow's early level learn set is abysmal. Rattata learns Hyper Fang at level 14 to deal more damage if needed, but Pidgey learns Sand Attack at level 5, allowing for cheesy evasion strats and making him the MVP of this battle for me. It also helps that Onix is easier to deal with than Geodude, because once he uses Bite, you can spam Growl. After slowly but surely emerging victorious, we get our first gym badge and the Bite TM, which is completely useless to me. We head east to Route 3, which has no items, but 8 trainers, and our first chance to catch a Jigglypuff. Then in the Pokemon Center at the end, you can buy a Magikarp for 500 Pokédollars, and obtaining this counts towards an achievement for obtaining every single Pokemon that's directly given to you. But next up is Mount Moon, and from a completionist perspective, this is one of the least fun areas in the game. We have 4 new Pokemon we can encounter, and if you're lucky enough to hit the 1% encounter rate for a Clefairy this early, then definitely consider it a top candidate not just for the main game, but also the Elite Four achievement for future fairy types as well, because Clefable not only has good stats, but an incredible move pool as well, including the classic Bolt Beam combo to hit everything in the game for at least neutral damage, minimize for evasion strats, Thunder Wave for paralysis, Psychic, and a lot more. We also have 12 trainers to battle, and including the fossil, we have 11 items to find, 2 of which will be hidden. And this was the part that made me go, oh yeah, you only get 20 item slots in your bag in Gen 1. And while yes, you can store 50 item types in the PC, because I was hunting down every single item for the achievement, the bag space became an issue constantly. So be prepared to actually use your items, make frequent trips to the PC to deposit them, or be prepared to sell or discard them frequently. After defeating the Super Nerd, we get to choose one of the 2 fossils, and I'm going with none other than Lord Helix. After finally making it through Mount Moon to Route 4, we have a hidden Great Ball, TM4, and a trainer we have to visit later on. This is also our first opportunity to catch a Sandshrew, and similar to Clefairy, Sandshrew also gets an attack combination that allows it to hit everything in the game for at least neutral damage, this time rock and ground instead of ice and electric. It may not be as strong as Clefairy, but it's much easier to find and can also be used for an endgame achievement. Then moving on to Cerulean City, we have a hidden rare candy in this backyard, the Dig TM from the Team Rocket member later on, and an in-game trade later on where you can get a Jinx for a Poliwhirl, which can come in handy for Gym 8. After healing at the Pokemon Center and heading north to defeat our rival again, we have 6 trainers and 1 item in Route 24, along with the first chance to get both an Abra and Bellsprout, both of which have achievement potential. Kadabra is still a good permanent party member even if you can't trade evolve it during the Retro Achievement set, and Victreebel makes a good replacement for Venusaur if you picked a different starter, while also being one of the top choices for Blue exclusive Pokemon for that Elite Four achievement. Then Route 25 has 3 items, 2 of which are hidden, and you also have 9 trainers to battle, but if you want to perform the Mew glitch after mastering the set, you need to skip these 2 trainers for now. That way you can save right before defeating them and getting your mastery badge, and then reset to perform the Mew glitch because doing it during the set will lock you out of achievements. After getting the SS ticket from Bill and returning to Cerulean, it's time for Gym 2. Naturally, Bulbasaur or Ivysaur can sweep through the regular trainers for the single session portion, but for Misty we can only use bug types. Don't be afraid to come back here later, because after the next town you have to come back through Cerulean anyways. If you did the Professor Oak Challenge Junior Edition achievement earlier, you'll have at least 1 bug decently leveled up. Butterfree gains access to Sleep Powder for status support, and Beedrill gets access to Twin Needle, which hits a secondary Psychic type for super effective damage. A Paris from Mount Moon is also a viable option while having use later on for a different gym challenge, but if you don't have one at this point, you can't backtrack to Mount Moon yet. After completing our second gym leader challenge, we make our way south through Route 5, and outside of the daycare and our first chance to catch a Meowth, we don't really have much else going on here. So into the building to the underground path we go, and we can trade a male Nidoran for a female one. Then in the path itself, we have a full restore and an X special hidden near the staircases. We continue on to Route 6, where we have no hidden items or new Pokemon in the grass, but 6 trainers to battle. Then Vermilion City has a Max Ether that you can't reach until getting Surf, and a house where you can trade a Spearow for a Farfetch'd. You can also get the bike voucher from the Pokemon Fan Club building, and the Fishing Guru next to the Pokemon Center will give you the Old Rod, which in Gen 1 can only catch you a Magikarp. That's all we can do here for now, so with the SS ticket in hand, we head south to board the ship. Be aware that once you talk to the captain and get the cut HM, leaving the ship will cause it to depart, and the NPC won't let you back on, meaning that this is one of the 2 areas in the game that has missable trainers and items. Unless you of course perform a glitch where you walk from here to here while pausing, then save and reset the game, and then finally use Serve to phase through the NPC and reboard the ship, meaning that he's a liar, then you could theoretically come back and collect everything later. While I'm at it, we can officially confirm that there is no Mew under the truck, but there are hidden items here in the remakes. But before I get any more off topic, back to the SSN, where we have 16 total trainers not including the rival battle, and 8 items, 2 of which are hidden. Many of you probably already knew about the Great Ball hidden in the trash can, but the Hyper Potion hidden in this cabin is probably the one that will take you the longest to find. Once we get the achievement, we have another rival battle with Assface, and after defeating him and getting the cut HM from the captain, we make our way to the Vermilion City Gym, where for the type challenge, we're gonna have to face off against Lieutenant Surge with only fire types. However, we have one major problem here. We haven't even encountered a single fire type yet. Since we didn't choose Charmander as our starter, our only remaining options are going to be available later on. The Vulpix and Ponyta lines, Flareon, and Magmar. Since realistically most players will want to use Fly outside of battle long before Cinnabar, and they may not even choose Flareon as their evolution, that means that Vulpix is the only viable option for anyone who didn't choose Charmander as their starter, and more importantly, it means we have to skip this gym for now. So heading to the east, we have the entrance to Diglett's Cave, which has no items or trainers, but 2 new Pokemon, and a path back to Route 2 to grab the Flash HM, along with the earlier mentioned items, and a Mr. Mime if you have an Abra. Then heading back to the Vermilion side and continuing east, we have Route 11, which has 9 trainers, 1 hidden item, and a chance to catch a Drowsy. Inside this building, you can trade a Nidorino for a Nidorina, and if you have at least 30 Pokemon registered in the Pokédex, one of Professor Oak's aides will give you the item finder. But it won't be as useful as this video or any other guide, so feel free to store it in the PC. We can't go on to Route 12 yet since the road is blocked, so we're going to go all the way back to Cerulean, trade our voucher for the bike, and cut our way east into Route 9. We have no new Pokemon here, but we have the Teleport TM, a hidden Ether, and 9 trainers to battle. The path will continue into the first half of Route 10, where you have your first opportunity to catch a Voltorb, and you can find both the first of 2 hidden items and 2 out of 6 trainers, though you'll need Surf later on for one of them. Not a big deal though, because we have to come back here for the power plant later on anyways. After healing up at the Pokemon Center, we're off to Rock Tunnel, where Flash is technically optional, but still highly recommended. We have a whopping 15 trainers scattered about in here, but thankfully not a single item to be on the lookout for. We also have 2 new Pokemon to catch, Onix and Machop. With Ivysaur razor leafing through most of the cave, we make it onto the second half of Route 10 relatively unharmed. Here we can find the second hidden item, and the remaining 4 out of 6 trainers in plain sight. We head into Lavender Town, but we can't actually do much here yet, so for now we're just passing through the Pokemon Center, and then heading west into Route 8, which has no items, but 9 trainers, and more importantly, our first opportunity to catch a Vulpix needed for Gym 3's achievement. But of course, we won't be heading back to Vermilion for quite a while, so feel free to casually gain a few levels first, and potentially learn Confuse Ray along the way. You may be tempted to go for an early Firestone evolution into Ninetales, but you'll miss out on a lot of level up moves, and don't forget that Flamethrower wasn't a TM until Gen 3, so I would hold off personally. At the end of the route, we can't enter Saffron City yet, so into the other underground path we go. We have 2 hidden items, both on the western half. After exiting into Route 7, we have no items, trainers, or new Pokemon here, though you can catch a Vulpix here as well. Then our next stop is Celadon City, which has quite a lot for us to do. On the outside, we only have a single hidden item and a TM from this NPC that we can't obtain until after getting Surf. Then as far as the achievement for obtaining every single TM and HM in the game goes, you don't need to buy any of the ones in the department store. You do, however, still need to get the counter TM from this NPC, and you need to get the 3 TMs from the girl on the rooftop by giving her different beverages. Make sure to grab an extra beverage and a Pokédoll before leaving, because we'll need both before too much longer. Our next stop will then be the hidden back entrance of the Pokemon Mansion, where we can go to the top to get ourselves an Eevee. While ultimately not too big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, as far as your achievement considerations go, you can choose Flareon for Gym 3, Jolteon for Gym 4, or Vaporeon for the Elite Four. But which one did I choose, you may ask? Well, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, I chose none other than Jolteon because it's my favorite of the 3. Next stop is a restaurant in town to get ourselves a coin case, and then it's time to go gambling at the game corner. In addition to 3 NPCs that will give you coins, there are 11 hidden spots on the ground where you can find them too, so no need to buy those initial coins. According to the internet, the bottom right machine has the best odds, so I set a turbo input to A, placed a weighted object on the button so it would spam max coin bets, and then walked away to make dinner. When I finally remembered that I left the game running, I had plenty of coins and was able to buy a Porygon next door. After we're done gambling, we battle the Rocket Grunt and then enter the hideout. There are no wild Pokemon here, but 10 trainers scattered throughout. But of course, nothing we can't handle at this point. Then excluding the Silph Scope from defeating Giovanni, there's 15 items to grab, 3 of which are hidden, and not in obvious spots either. I was able to find the one in the tree and the one behind Giovanni, But I had to look up the last one because placing an invisible item right next to the visible double-edged TM is actually one of the most evil things that Team Rocket has ever done. Anyways, after wrapping everything up, you would think that our next stop would be the Celadon City Gym, which requires an electric type for the achievement. In theory, if you've been training a Pikachu or Voltorb, you could do this now, but I had a much better plan in mind, which means that we're skipping yet another gym for now. We take a quick trip west into Route 16, but a Snorlax is blocking the path, so we can't do much for now. We can, however, cut the bush and head all the way to the secret house to get Fly, even if we can't use it outside of battle yet. The nearby grass also allows us to catch a Doduo, a Furo, and a Raticate. Then we head back all the way through the east exit of Celadon and give a drink to the guard to gain access to Saffron City. However, we're just passing through here for now, so after using the Pokemon Center, we continue east all the way back to Lavender Town. Next stop is the Pokemon Tower, and I'll break this area down floor by floor. There's nothing of note on floor 1, and we have another rival battle on floor 2. Once you make it to floor 3, the wild encounters will begin, and you can catch a Ghastly, a Haunter, and a Cubone here. We're definitely training up a Haunter, not just for Retro Achievements potential, but because it's a good party member in general, even without trading. Floor 3 has an escape rope and 3 trainer battles, Floor 4 has 3 visible items and 3 trainers, Floor 5 has a healing area in the center to spare you trips all the way back to the Pokemon Center, and has 4 trainers, a visible nugget, and or 1 hidden item. Then Floor 6 has 3 trainers, 2 visible items, and the Marowak battle which you can't catch. And Floor 7 has no items, but 3 trainers before rescuing Mr. Fuji to obtain the Pokeflute from him. So not including the rival battle or the Pokeflute, that's 16 trainers and 8 items total throughout the entire tower. We then heal ourselves up and head south with our Pokeflute onto Route 12, where the main event is a battle with a Snorlax. As far as the Retro Achievement set goes, the only missable Pokemon you really need to worry about are going to be from overworld encounters, so make sure to save before facing off against Snorlax, the legendary birds, or Mewtwo. And I guess also don't do something stupid like release your starter, fossil, or Eevee before fully evolving them. In the case of Snorlax, we have 2 chances to grab one, but we may as well catch both. Then after the first encounter with Snorlax, we have 7 trainers and 3 items. One that requires Cut, one that requires Surf, and one that's hidden in a boulder. The gatehouse in the northern part has a girl that'll give us TM39, while the grass here gives us our first chance to encounter a Venonat, which we'll need a spare one for later on. Then the fishing guru in this house will give you the Super Rod, which opens up a lot of new Pokemon depending on where you fish. Psyduck, Poliwag, Slowpoke, Krabby, Shelder, Horsea, Tentacool, and Goldeen. And quite a few of these can be useful to us. As stated before, Psyduck was our MVP for the Retro Achievement set, but getting 2 Poliwags can help us with both a trade and multiple achievements. Slowpoke can be used for multiple achievements as well, and Krabby can learn multiple HMs to make traveling the overworld a whole lot more straightforward. Back to the main adventure, with Snorlax out of the way, we're going back to Vermilion since it's right there, and we can finally complete the gym challenge by sweeping the trainers with our overleveled crew, and then using a single Vulpix with Confuse Ray and Ember to defeat Lieutenant Surge. So yeah, quite the journey leading up to badge number 3, but at least we can fly now. Then we head back east into Route 12 again, but this time head south into Routes 13, 14, and 15, which effectively feels like one giant area. In these collective areas, you can catch a Weepinbell or Pidgeotto if you don't feel like training up a Bellsprout or Pidgey, and it's also your first opportunity to catch a Ditto, though you'll have multiple opportunities to catch one later on. Routes 13, 14, and 15 all have 10 trainers each. Then Route 13 has 2 hidden items, and Route 15 has a single visible item at the top, TM20. Then once you enter the gatehouse, you can head upstairs and look through the binoculars on the left to see a legendary bird and get an achievement. Then you also have another one of Professor Oak's assistants, and long story short, the experience point all sucks. You're much better off just leading with a weak Pokemon, swapping into a strong one, and getting the 50-50. So just deposit it as soon as you can. We then enter Fuchsia City, and in hindsight, I should have done this section immediately. But at the time, my mind was focused on training up Haunter and Poliwag for future battles, so we instead continue west of the cycling path, aka Route 16, 17, and 18, which connects Fuchsia to Celadon. Before the gatehouse on Route 18 we have 3 trainers, and once we're inside we can trade a Slowbro once we get one for a Lickitung. Continuing onward, the entire cycling path has 16 trainers and 5 hidden items. Also, if you didn't catch one on the way to grab the Fly HM earlier, now's a good chance to catch a Doduo. Then we catch our second Snorlax, and fly into Saffron City before making our way straight to Silphco, which is the other major section that has missables, because the grunts leave after you defeat Giovanni. This is a good spot to train up some of your weaker Pokemon if needed, because you're going to be here for quite a while. You have 30 total trainers and 17 items to grab, not including the Master Ball at the very end. Once you get the key, don't forget that Retro Achievements requires you to open up every single door as well. Your hidden items will be on floor 5 in a plant, and on floor 9 in a bed. Also don't forget that there's an NPC on floor 2 that gives you the self-destruct TM. After defeating our rival yet again, which wasn't a problem between Venusaur and Haunter, a nearby NPC will give you a Lapras. After that, Giovanni was honestly even easier than the rival battle because Venusaur alone could sweep the whole team. After getting the Master Ball, the rest of Saffron City opens up. Near the bottom right we have Mr. Psychic's house to get the Psychic TM, and in the upper left we can give this girl a Pokédoll to get the Mimic TM before grabbing a nugget on her desk. Our next stop is going to be the Fighting Dojo, where after defeating several trainers, you can get either a Hitmonlee or Hitmonchan as a gift. In earlier generations, only a move's type is used to determine whether it's physical or special. So Hitmonchan gets screwed here, and Hitmonlee is going to be the better choice. But do as I say, not as I do. And now it's time for the Saffron City Gym. Despite the unfavorable type matchups, Venusaur will sweat through all the trainers with little issue, in part due to the critical hit rate being tied to the speed stat in Gen 1. That combined with a critical hit rate boost of Razor Leaf leaves me with more critical hits than not at this point. Then for Sabrina, we can only use ghost types, aka Ghastly and Haunter. But while Haunter's pretty good, there's one major problem here, and that's the type matchup. Psychic types are always intended to be weak against Ghost, but in Generation 1, a programming error makes them immune to Ghosts instead. And inversely, because our only Ghost types in the game are also Poison type, Psychic attacks will hit them for super effective damage. Which means it's time to cheese things. In Generation 1, if an opponent is put to sleep and then they wake up, that counts as their turn and they can't attack. Which means that the main strategy here is to just use an X accuracy, that way you don't have to worry about Hypnosis missing. If you're a bit underleveled you can use an X speed as well, and the end goal is to perpetually keep them asleep before they ever get a chance to attack. So with that, we have our next badge. Now it's time to fly back to Fuchsia, and actually do things here instead of just passing through. Our first stop will be the Safari Zone, which grants us access to a lot of good Pokemon like Execute, Rhyhorn, Chansey, Kangaskhan, Pinsir, Tauros, and Dratini, many of which are exclusive to the Safari Zone. On paper, the best strategy is going to be to throw a rock to increase the capture odds, and then throw a Safari Ball. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's some Gen 1 programming oddity that makes it work differently than intended at times. In the starting area, we have one item that requires Surf, which we get at the end of the Safari Zone. To the east we have 4 visible items, and then we head to the northwest into Area 2, where we have 2 visible items near the top. Then onward to Area 3, we have 4 visible items and a hidden revive in the statue. Then we enter the secret house and get the Surf HM as a reward. But in addition to the Pokemon and items, we have an original achievement here as well. Without resetting, catch 10 Pokemon in a single Safari hunt. My strategy was to just fish up Magikarp with the Old Rod because of the capture rates and not needing to worry about the step counter since you can stand in place, but this achievement sucked. I generally don't mind most of the achievement types that players complain about, such as damageless bosses, speedrun challenges, or unconventional gameplay. But for this achievement, there's no skill, there's no improving on something to overcome it. You just keep going and going until you eventually get lucky enough to complete it. I tried every practical combination of rocks and balls or just Safari Balls, and I lost count of how many attempts this took, because there's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes I could catch a Magikarp in 2 to 3 balls, and other times it would take me 10 or more. So while I do overall enjoy most of this Retro Achievements set, even if it does highlight some of the shortcomings of Generation 1, this was an achievement that I absolutely despised, and I really hope that I'm in the minority here and that most players were able to get this in 5 or 6 attempts, as opposed to several dozen like me. But at least once we're finally done here, it's time for some more traditional action because it's time for the next gym. Since the gym type challenge here is restricted to grass types, this was basically the inverse of Saffron City for me. So Haunter primarily dealt with the trainers, while Venusaur was able to solo the gym leader, thanks to his speed set allowing him to get critical hits on nearly every single Razor Leaf at this point, negating the grass type resistance of enemy poison types. But for anybody who didn't choose Bulbasaur as a starter, you have several backup strategies. You could catch an Execute in the Safari Zone, evolve it into an Executor with a Leaf Stone, and then teach it Psychic from the TM in Saffron City. Between base stats, attack power, save type attack boost, and enemy weaknesses, you can solo this with Executor with minimal investment, even if you're a bit underleveled. And then Executor can continue to be useful for the Gym 8 achievement. Another solid option here is Victory Bell, who has a lot of the same benefits as Venusaur, but has a few additional advantages as well. Most notably, also being able to be used for the achievement where you complete the Elite Four with only blue exclusive Pokemon. And while this last choice isn't nearly as strong as the other two, I just wanted to emphasize that this was the exact moment I learned that Spore wasn't introduced in Generation 3, and it was an exclusive move to Paras and Parasect in Gens 1 and 2. So this might be my personal favorite achievement in the set because of how many different viable strategies there are. After you earn your badge but before you leave Fuchsia, get the good rod from the Guru even though we have the super rod already, make sure to get the teeth from the Safari Zone to the Warden to get the Strength HM, and make sure to push the boulder in the Warden's house to get a rare candy. But in my case, I still don't have the 4th gym badge yet. So it's time to prep for that by flying into Cerulean City, cutting the bush, heading east through Route 9, and then surfing along the backside of Route 10, leading us to the power plant. In addition to items, you also have to capture or defeat every hidden Voltorb or Electrode disguised as an item. So including those, we have 15 items, 2 of which are hidden. More importantly though, this is our chance to encounter and capture Zapdos, who is powerful enough to be useful right out the gate, all the way through the main story and beyond. So with the power of a legendary bird at our side, we fly to Celadon and can easily sweep the entire gym with Zapdos for the achievement. With 6 badges in hand, it's now time to go surfing. Up to you if you want to start from Pallet Town or Fuchsia, but I chose the latter because I still had to grab the rare candy from the Warden's house. I'll cover the entirety of the sea path as a single section, even though it's 3 combined routes with detours. For Route 19, aka the southern swim from Fuchsia, you'll have 10 trainers to battle, 2 on land and 8 in the water. Route 20 also has 10 trainers, but it's going to be divided up. 3 of them are to the east of Seafoam Islands, 1 will be in their own small body of water in the center, and the last 6 will be as you leave the Seafoam Islands and head to Cinnabar. Then Route 21, aka the path from Cinnabar back to Pallet Town, has 9 trainers. I took my sweet time battling them all because I needed to level up my trump card for the next gym. Or so I thought. I also entered the Seafoam Islands, which has 3 hidden items on basement floors 2, 3, and 4 respectively. After pushing boulders around to block the current, we get our chance to catch Articuno, who's useful in most major battles throughout the end of the game, netting it a spot in our party. After that, Cinnabar Island is our next stop. In addition to being able to revive our 2 fossils, Aerodactyl and Omanite, we also have our final 3 in-game trades. A Ponyta for a Seal, a Raichu for an Electrode, and a Venonat for a Tangela. Also fun fact, in the Japanese releases you would trade a Kadabra instead of a Raichu, but the text saying that it evolved stayed in, leading to a number of playground rumors back in the day over this error. Orgorochu is in fact real, and this NPC is the only one in existence. And the Ponyta can be found in the next area on this island, the Pokemon Mansion, along with a Grimer, Coughing, and Magmar. This is also a better spot to find a Ditto if you didn't catch one earlier. We also have 6 trainers and 13 items scattered throughout, 3 of which are hidden. A Moonstone in the starting area, a Max Revive tucked in some rocks, and a rare candy hidden by the secret key that we'll need to access the gym. On top of that, we also need to read all 4 journal pages on Mew, so make sure to pack some repels because with the switches here, you're going to be running into a lot of Pokemon otherwise. After that, our next stop is the Cinnabar Island Gym, where many of you will be battling these trainers for the very first time. Because to battle all the trainers for the first achievement, we have to get all the trivia questions wrong. But the trainers are nothing that our stacked party in Psyduck and training can't handle at this point. Then for Blaine, we have to use fighting types. I brought up Poliwrath because the additional water type makes it feel more like a traditional gym battle, but it turns out that doesn't even matter because this battle is free. How so, you may ask? Well, you see, Blaine has what's called the Good Enemy AI, meaning they exploit weaknesses whenever possible. But Gen 1 only makes that determination via types. It can't make the distinction between an attacking and a non-attacking move. Blaine's starting Pokemon is Growlithe, so it sees my fighting type and proceeds to spam the one psychic type move that it knows. Agility. And since your opponents have unlimited power points for their moves, this Growlithe is completely unable to attack me, allowing me to pump all the X items that my heart desires before absolutely steamrolling his entire team. So even if you've put 0 effort into training up a fighting type, you can just grab your level 30 gift Pokemon from the Saffron City Dojo and then use this tactic. With our 7th badge and some easy points, we have one final achievement before leaving Cinnabar. Fishing up and capturing a Magikarp, Goldeen, Shelder, Horsey, Poliwag, and Staryu without leaving the island. Which was a nice and relaxing way to fill up the Pokédex because you have access to both the Pokemon Center and the Mart here. But before we leave, let's talk about Missigno. As many of you probably know, if you have the old man in Viridian City show you how to catch Pokemon, and then you fly to Cinnabar and surf along the eastern edge of the island, you can encounter a Missigno, and a side effect of this glitch is duplicating whatever is in item slot 6. I was initially under the false impression that this glitch was banned from RetroAchievements. I later found out that I was completely misremembering things, and it's only considered cheating in the Professor Oak Challenge subset. If I was aware of my mistake at the beginning of the set, I would have done Gym 5 a whole lot sooner and duped some rare candies to reduce the type challenge grinding. But the big reason why I'm emphasizing this is because after many years, multi-set tracking is finally becoming a thing. So naturally, it's only a matter of time before players can complete a Pokemon core set and a Professor Oak challenge at the same time. So make sure you know the subset rules before beginning both, because especially in Pokemon games, the Rich Present status can and will snitch on you. With the rambling now over, we're off to Viridian City for Gym 8. Being a ground-type gym, Venusaur is able to defeat the 8 trainers with ease, and we make sure to pick up the Revive inside as well. Then for Giovanni, we have to use Psychic types, which won't be a problem as long as you have any Psychic type trained up, because Psychic is the best overall type in Gen 1. On top of that, your available Psychic types have solid move pools for coverage, Psychic moves hit the Nidos for super effective damage, Giovanni's Pokemon don't exactly have the best special defense, and 2 of your options, Jinx and Mr. Mime, get boosted experience from being in-game trades. And of course, as mentioned before, Mr. Mime also has the distinct advantage of being useful for a later achievement. But however you decide to do this, you'll get your gym badge before too long, and you can start heading towards the end of the game. We have another rival battle, which is no problem with our current party, and then our walking simulator through Route 23 has 3 hidden items, all of which are in pretty predictable places. Then Victory Road is next, and we have a few Stage 2 Pokemon like Graveler, Machoke, Golbat, and Venomoth that you can catch if you don't want to grind the pre-evolutions to get your dex entries. We also have 11 trainers to battle, and 10 items to find, so make sure to pack those repels. 2 of the items are hidden, and both of them are found in rocks. One by the exit path towards Indigo Plateau, and one by our final legendary bird encounter, Moltres. It's nowhere near as useful as the other 2 birds, but because of my party's overall level, it found some use on my team on the first visit through the Elite Four. For my standard game clear, Venusaur's Razor Leaf swept through Lorelei due to all of the secondary water typings and easy crits, and then Bruno was even easier because nearly everything on his team dies from a single super effective hit, minus Machamp, but that's still a 2-hit KO. However, Agatha has some big advantages over Venusaur, but Zapdos is able to Thunderbolt Golbat, and all 3 legendary birds are able to hit hard enough to take care of the rest, even if it wasn't the prettiest battle. Then for Lance, Zapdos can take care of Gyarados and Aerodactyl with Thunderbolt, and then Articuno can sweep the entire rest of the team with Ice Beam. Which means that all that's left is Ass Face, and Zapdos alone can handle Pidgeot, Gyarados, Exeggutor, and Charizard. And it's also pretty easy for Charizard to get locked into Rage, meaning I don't have to worry about it exploiting weaknesses. Moltres can handle Exeggutor, and Venusaur can one-hit KO Rhydon while still hitting hard against anything else thanks to Razor Leaf. So I would say that his Alakazam was the only real threat against my team, so after that was out, this battle had been won, making us the Elite Four champions as we enjoy the credits. We do have more achievements here, but for now, let's just enjoy what little post-game content we get. Cerulean Cave. If you've been battling every single trainer immediately, then the last that you encounter here will be your final trainer battle. Once inside, we have a lot of rare and evolved Pokemon here, too many to name them all off, but this is a fantastic spot to chip away at the Pokédex without having to grind. Then we have our final 10 items here, 2 of which are hidden. And oh boy was I glad to be done with those item finding achievements. But most importantly, we have our final missable, which is our final Pokemon, Mewtwo. There's no retro achievement in the blue set for capturing Mewtwo without it, so just use the Master Ball to avoid dealing with her cover. And with that, it's now time to begin grinding for our remaining Elite Four challenges. We have to win with a full 6-member team of water types, Pokemon exclusive to blue, Pokemon that can be found in the Safari Zone, Pokemon that aren't fully evolved, and Pokemon that eventually become fairy types in future generations. Grinding in Gen 1 is a bit rough though, so if you're personally against using the Missigno glitch to dupe rare candies, your best option is to probably just swap trick through the Elite Four, especially since that Mewtwo you just caught is going to make the standard clears easier, while also getting you a lot of money in the process. So in an effort to get 3 achievements at once, our first party is going to be Psyduck and the Sacrificial Magikarps. I started with a simple moveset of Surf, Blizzard, Dig, and Confusion, with Blizzard getting as many PP ups as possible. But Battle 1 is genuinely the hardest one for Psyduck, because Lorelei's Pokemon are all pretty bulky and will eat through your move's PP. Dugong alone can wall Psyduck with Rest, so be prepared to level up Psyduck more than expected just because of Battle 1. And don't sleep on X items for this battle. Once we beat Lorelei though, it gets a bit easier. Bruno almost gets completely swept by Surf, and then Confusion and Dig can get us through Agatha. Blizzard alone then sweeps Lance, but now we have a problem. We're pretty much completely out of PP, spare a few Surfs, so I just don't have enough moves to deal with Ass Face. And because I've been constantly selling or discarding items to make room for more, I no longer have any access to PP restoring items. So my unconventional solution here was to teach it a brand new moveset, because when you learn a new move, it starts at max PP. We have Ice Beam that'll help with half of the opposing Pokemon, and Body Slam has a 30% chance to paralyze, while moves like Mega Punch, Strength, and Bubble Beam all have plenty of PP to get you through. Then once all the achievements pop, I reset before the game saves, that way I can keep the TMs for future challenges. On a similar note, I went ahead and taught Psyduck Payday to get another achievement, which I got in about 2 minutes into the battle with Lorelei. Turns out that her wall of a resting Dugong makes this one pretty easy. Then our next Elite Four challenge is going to be a party of blue exclusive Pokemon. So not including pre-evolutions, your main choices are Sandslash, Ninetales, Persian, Victreebel, Magmar, and Pinsir. Victreebel is a solid choice here between Stab on Razor Leaf and Acid, though be aware that you need to learn Razor Leaf as a Bellsprout or Weepinbell before you evolve into a Victreebel. Body Slam also helps you spread paralysis, and you also have access to one of the most obnoxious strategies in the game, Wrap, which works a bit differently in Gen 1, because your opponent is unable to attack when they're trapped. So if you outspeed your opponent or use an X speed to do so, you can slowly stunlock your opponents to death before they ever get a chance to attack. Even with critical hits though, Victoryville's biggest shortcoming will be Agatha, because the Pokemon will resist both stabs, Hyper Beam won't affect them, and you can't stack stab boosts with critical hits because of a Gen 1 programming error. Not an impossible battle, but definitely get your healing items ready. And our other Gold Star option here is going to be Sand Slash, because Rock Slide and Earthquake allows you to hit everything in the game for at least neutral damage. The rest is pretty self-explanatory. I would also argue that Persian has enough going for it to be viable, but the first two choices have enough advantages that I would prefer them. Everything else in my opinion has too many flaws between its typing, stats, and or move pool for me to want to recommend them. After achieving victory with Victory Bell, we have one final Elite Four challenge remaining, a team full of future fairy types, which primarily leaves us with Mr. Mime, Clefable, and Wigglytuff, the last of which can be found at a decent level in Cerulean Cave. Undoubtedly Clefable is your best option here. Bulky and hard hitting, and the combination of Thunderbolt and Ice Beam also allows you to hit everything in the game for at least neutral damage. Then from there, you have so many choices for your last two move slots such as Psychic, Thunder Wave, or Body Slam that this is one of the easiest solos in the game. But in my case, because I didn't catch an early game Clefairy, I used the traded Mr. Mime Marcel, running both Psychic and Confusion to not run out of stab attacks, and then Thunderbolt and Seismic Toss for coverage. Then we take a quick trip to Cerulean Cave, before Marcel and the Wigglytuffs head off on their journey to the Elite Four, marking the end of our Pokemon Blue Retro Achievements journey. And while I overall enjoyed my time replaying Pokemon Blue with a fresh twist, minus a single achievement of course, the key word in all of that is replaying. If this is your first time playing a Gen 1 game, or it's been a very long time and you don't really remember anything about it, you'll probably enjoy yourself a whole lot more if you break it up into 2 playthroughs, or even just settle for the beat status, because this set will make you extra aware of the biggest shortcomings of Generation 1. But before I move on to Gen 2, I have one final achievement left. Not a retro achievement, but a personal one. Despite growing up with siblings and a link cable, I've never gotten the diploma for completing the Pokédex, so today I want to finally complete it. But while I could begin a new game and begin trading with myself, I have a better idea. Red Dimension Portal, open!
Galaxius?
Hey PajamaJohn, welcome to the Blue Dimension. It's nearly identical to your Red Dimension, but with a few slight differences in available Pokemon. Oh, and we have different retro achievement sets too. But anyways, I need your help to complete the Pokédex. Care to trade and we can complete yours as well?
Sounds great, let's do it.
Alright, perfect. We both have our own trait evolutions now, and we both didn't save our games after evolving our fossils and EVs for the achievements.
Yeah, but we still have a problem here.
We do?
What about the starters? Is there anyone we know that would be willing to restart multiple times, or just so happen to have all 3 starters on hand?
Ah, that's right. We both evolved our starters, and we need all 3 anyways. Yellow Dimension Portal, open!
Oh, hey guys, what are you two doing here?
Nostalgic Juice, what perfect timing. I see you're working on the Pokemon Yellow Retro Achievement set. Whatever you do, please save your game before evolving your starter Pokemon gifts to complete your set. That way you can reset afterwards, and we can round robin trade to complete our Pokédexes. We'll give you the Pokemon you need to complete yours as well, and we can all get our diplomas. Sound good?
Alright, sounds good. I'll see you guys after I master my set.
So should I just chill here and wait until he comes back?
Sure, why not? You excited for the Wii Retro Achievements event?
Oh, for sure. The first game I'm going to master is...
Hey guys, I'm back.
Well, that was fast. Alright then, let's trade. Almost done, and I have one final surprise. I know we only need 150 Pokemon for the diploma, but I performed the Mew glitch, so we can do one final trade and have 151 Pokemon registered. After all these years, it's finally done. Thanks guys, I had a wonderful time. Maybe we can do this again for Generation 2 one day.
I don't know, man. I got the easiest game of the 3 of us, and I still thought it was a bit of a grind to get all these Pokemon. But the main game was pretty fun, so if you guys wanted to do this again sometime, I might be down. But please don't stick me with the yellow rat again.
I'm honestly down. I did hate doing this set, but it would be fun to do another one. I'll do it.
Alright, well, that's all I got for now, so I guess I'll see you two later. Wait, hold up, where's my Mew? PajamaJohn, I swear if you don't give me back my Mew,